Okay, so today's lesson we are going to make a cute little creepy guy, and we're going to use some different techniques that we have not done before. So to start the lesson, we want to create a new document. So we're going to go to File, New, and the first thing that you have to make sure that you pay attention to is that you're choosing pixels and not inches. If you choose inches first and then try to change it back, it ends up making the numbers really, really off. So we're going to do 500 pixels wide and 500 pixels tall. So our document is going to be a square. We want to have 72 pixels per inch for our resolution, and we're going to leave everything else at the default. So I'm going to hit create, and I start with my document here. I'm going to move my layers panel over so it's a little bit easier for you guys to follow along with. I'm going to start with a new layer. So I get a new layer. I'm going to rename my layer. This is going to make it much easier to complete the assignment when we start going back and forth on different layers. And I'm going to call this one body. Next, I'm going to get my polygon lasso tool, and it's right here. So we're going to make a triangle. Super easy. If you have trouble using the polygon lasso, you can freehand a triangle as well. And then next, we want to change our foreground color. And I'm going to give you RGB numbers for that. The RGB number for the foreground that we want to use is 208, 111, and 34. Okay, so it's an orange color. We're going to click here, and then I want to do a keyboard command to fill in my selection. So I'm going to do Alt backspace. That is the same keyboard command that will work in Photopea and Photoshop. If for some reason you can't use the keyboard command, you can fill it in with the paint bucket. Okay, next we're going to get another new layer. Actually, let's go back and make a stroke on this before we move any further. So we've got our body layer still selected. We're going to go to Edit, Stroke, and we're going to choose a 2 or 3 pixel stroke. I think in the notes it says 3, but you can do 2 if it seems a little bit big for you. We're going to make the color of the stroke black, and we're going to press OK. So here's my triangle with my stroke. Okay, so I'm going to go up. I've created a new layer. I'm going to deselect, so Control D. My new layer is going to be called Head. So I chose that. Now I want to choose a new color for this. So the color is going to be 230, 242, and 242. You'll notice that anytime you have colors that are pretty similar or really close in the number system, that's going to be a shade of gray. In this one, I noticed that there's more blue and green, so I know it's going to be kind of a bluish green shade of gray. Okay, so I have my head layer. The next thing I want to do is I want to get my elliptical marquee tool, and I'm going to draw an oval, and then I'm going to fill it in with my Alt backspace. Now, I noticed I left out one step on the body, so I'm going to let's go ahead and put a stroke around this first. We're going to do a stroke. It's going to be the same settings that you used for the body, black, 2 to 3 pixel. I like the 2 pixel a little bit more. Now I noticed down here on the body I forgot a step that's in the written instructions, and that is going to be to warp your body. So I'm going to deselect the head. I'm going to go back down to the body layer. If I'm in Photopea, to get to free transform, I'm going to right click. Oh no, sorry. I'm going to Alt Control T. In Photoshop, I'm going to Control T. I'm going to right click inside here and choose warp. And when I do warp, it's going to allow me to stretch this out a little bit. So what I want to do is I would just want to make the sides a little bit rounder. I'm going to bring the bottom down just a tad. And then to commit my change, I'm going to do the check mark. Okay, this is going to be a head on this guy, so I may want to use my move tool and drag him down just a little bit. Okay, so I'm on the head layer now, and I want to create a new layer. And this one is going to be a little tricky. We're going to rename it. It's going to be called Mouth. And we're going to start with using the elliptical marquee tool. So we're going to make a circular selection like this. Let's pull it down a little bit below the head. Now, before I do anything to this selection, I need to get rid of the top part of my circle. So I'm going to switch to the lasso tool. And if you guys remember, this shortcut for subtract is going to be Alt. And you'll see that I got the little minus symbol there. And so what I'm going to do is I'm freehanding, and I kind of want it to be a little bit jagged. I'm going to freehand select this part to remove it from my selection. Now I want to fill it in with the same color as the face, but I have a problem because that when I changed and selected the stroke option, it changed my foreground color back to black. Now I could go in here and click on this and retype my numbers in, but I'm going to show you a shortcut. On your toolbar, you're going to have a eyedropper. In Photoshop, the key for that is I believe it is in Photopea as well. But what we're going to do is we are going to click on that head layer, or click on the head itself. And when I do, I notice that my foreground color has now changed. So I can Alt backspace. And again, we're going to apply a stroke just like we've been doing to the mouth. Okay. So we are doing really good. Next, we're going to create a new layer. And on this layer, I want to get the elliptical marquee tool. I'm going to deselect the mouth. And when I use the elliptical marquee tool, I'm going to make an oval eye. And I'm going to press the D key on my keyboard to make sure I have the default colors up. Then I'm going to Alt backspace to fill that in. Next, I want to go into my transform mode. So if you're in Photopea, it's Control Alt T. If you're in Photoshop, we're just going to Control T. And we're going to right click inside here, and we can choose to rotate a certain amount. But up here on my options bar, I'm going to put in 35. If you're doing this at home, it doesn't have to be exact, but you do want the eyeball to be tilted a little bit. Next, just like we did in Melon, we're going to use our Move tool. And I still have the eyeball selected. I'm going to hold down Alt, and I'm going to drag that eye over. And so I've made a copy of the eye. I'm going to go into my transform settings again. So again, Photoshop is Control T, Photopea is Control Alt T. I'm going to get inside here, and I'm going to right click and choose Flip Horizontal. It's the exact same method that we used in the Melon Head lesson. This is the same lesson. If you're doing this and you're in the principles class, we did it, I believe, in the selections lesson. So now our eyes are there. We're going to Control D to deselect. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create let's make this layer called face. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new layer, and inside that new layer we're going to call this eyes. And I know I just made the eyes on the face layer, but we want to have 2 layers of eyes. So I'm going to choose a yellow color. I'm going to get the elliptical marquee, and I want to do kind of a circular shape. I like that circle. I'm going to do Alt backspace to fill it in. I'm probably going to readjust this a little bit to kind of go in the top part of the eye. And again, with my Move tool, if I hold on Alt, I can make an exact copy of it and slide it over. Okay, so we're going to deselect, Control D. Now I'm going to go back to the face on this, and I'm just going to get my paintbrush. Oops, let's get a regular paintbrush. So I'm going to get a regular paintbrush, and I need to make it very, very small. So probably like a 5, 6, 7 size brush, whichever. I'm going to zoom in on mine so I can see a little bit better. And all I'm going to do, I'm going to get my default colors back up, and I'm just going to paint a little nose. Okay, it's super simple. You can do however you want to for the nose. Then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come above to eyes layer, and I'm going to hit add to get a new layer. I'm going to call this layer ears. And so what I want to do, and you can do it 2 different ways. You can either make an oval and then kind of warp it the same way we did with the body, or you can freehand paint the ears. I want to use the same color that I had for the face. So if I'm on my paintbrush, if I hold down Alt, it will temporarily become an eyedropper. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to paint a little shape over here. And I like that shape, so I'm going to Control and click on the thumbnail. What that's going to do is it's going to make it a selection. Then I'm going to use my Move tool, and I'm going to make a copy of this. So I'm going to hold down Alt, and I want to flip it. So if you're in Photopea, it's Control Alt T to get the free transform. If it's Photoshop, it's just Control T. So I'm going to Control T that. We're going to right click, flip horizontal, and now I'm going to put his ear on the head. Now, on the ears, one of the things that we did not do that we've done on everything else is apply a stroke. I'm going to deselect that ear. As long as the ears are the only two things that's on that layer, I don't even have to have anything selected. I can go to Edit, Stroke. I think for the ears, let's make it a little bit smaller and do 1 pixel. I'm going to press OK. And so I have created the ears. Now, this is where I would stop with the class and let you guys customize your little guy here. We want to make sure that we do something with the mouth, and he needs to have arms and he needs to have legs and feet. The description in your notes says that he needs to have arms, legs, hair, nose, tooth, patches, ears, stitches, etc. And in the written instructions, I've given you several different really cool examples that former students have done. And you can see that some of them are a little bit more detailed than others. So I'm going to stop right here with the video instructions and let you go in and customize the rest. Oh, you know what? Let's not stop there. Let's go to our head layer real quick, because I need to show you one last tool. I'm going to click on the Burn tool. And the Burn tool is underneath the Dodge tool. So if you look for the lollipop and then open that drawer, the Burn tool will be under there. And Burn works just like the sun does. If your exposure is really, really high, then you are going to definitely see the burn really quickly. We want to make sure that we have a soft brush so that the strokes that we make are not as noticeable. I've got to be on the head layer, and what I want to do is I'm just going to click several times underneath his eyes. Goodness, I almost forgot this part. So what I'm doing is every time I click and release the mouse, it's building up a little bit of burn on his head. I want to go in and burn his ears a little bit, so I want them to be a little bit darker. So I'm going to increase my exposure so I can go pretty quickly in this video. And so let's see. If I do like that, I've made his ears a little bit darker. Then let's go back to the mouth. I always like to kind of go along the jawline here. It gives it a little bit more shading. You can burn around the, so we got to go back to the head. We can burn around the nose and give him kind of some splotchy. But anyway, so this is actually where I'm going to leave you. And you can add the other elements to your little creepy guy. Email me if you have questions.